Hello, 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 hello. Okay, here we go. Alright. This is an example of X-ray crystallography. Okay. We're going to use some weird H's. Actually, let's clear image. Weird H's at different lengths and distances. Okay, this is an app I designed, and these are hydrogens, and they represent atoms and also nucleuses. And what we want to know is that there are lots of angles being conducted in X-ray crystallography. Okay, one of the biggest problems that I've ever tried to figure out is X-ray crystallography. And they claim that it's a mathematical principle called Fourier transform. Okay, so like there are different densities here. You could say this is of a crystal. Okay, any density, any biomolecular or crystal density, this is just a density, and it's real general, and it's the smallest particle known as a hydrogen. Okay, as you can see, these spaces are going to represent what might be oddly proportional inside of an X-ray crystal. Usually there's some uniformity to the structure of matter. And we want to represent the chaos. We want to represent the non-uniformity of it. Okay, there's a bit of a blob there. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to show an X-ray line moving through. Okay, it's moving through. Actually, it moves at straight lines, so I'm going to try to do this as straight as possible. It's going to hit here. It's going to be diffracted in this direction, and then it's going to hit here, and it's going to be diffraction in this direction. But the thing is this could also diffract in this direction given random entropy and enthalpy, or it could diffract back in this direction. And these are all directional. So if you think about X-ray crystallography, how X-rays will diffract, they're not absorbed. Diffraction is when X-rays are not absorbed by the atoms or electrons. So when it diffracts, it just bounces around. It's sort of a reflection. Well, they claim that there are three principles in X-ray diffraction that make it able to detect 3D volume, 3D mass. Well, what that is the difference in frequency and difference in amplitudes of frequencies. And they think that somehow diffracted, they think that somehow that they think that these diffractions can give identities to the location of where they might be. Well, who's to say, because maybe these differences in amplitude, if you know what amplitude is the fact that a wave could be this tall and this is the wavelength, and the wavelength can be the same, but the more energy a photon has, it has more amplitude, so it can still have the same wavelength but have a higher amplitude. Okay, see, this is the amplitude. Amplitude, and this is the wavelength. Okay, so, and then the wavelength equals the frequency and the amplitude is wave height. And that's really all you get out of a photon, other than its positive charge ability. Okay, so these are traveling through here, and the only thing that can really change is their frequency or their wave height, which is their amplitude. Okay, so basically we get these frequencies coming in that hit here, they hit here, they hit here, then they bounce down here and hit here, then they hit here, then they hit here, then they hit over here, then they hit up here, then they hit down here, then they hit over here, then they hit down here, then they hit here. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Leonard.
Hey, what are you doing?
On the phone with these assholes. I can't fix my phone.
Okay, well, I'm busy right now. Can I call you back? Is there anything important you need to say?
What are you busy with?
I'm doing a video right now.
I wanted to give you 8 quarters so you have clean clothes to go tonight.
Well,
Come get them.
do you feel like doing a load for me?
If you bring them over here.
Well, I want you to come over here and do it.
I'm busy right now.
It's a real small load. All you got to do is like a few pairs of pants and a few shirts, and that's it.
Bring them over in a bag over here. I'll do them. I'm busy right now waiting for this Q link.
Well, I will in a bit.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, it bounces around. You can see that this is a diffraction. And this diffraction is going all over the place. And these are basically assumed to be the variances. Now the question is variance in atomic structure of crystals and biological matter variance in atomic structure of crystals and biological matter. Okay, so now there's no way, it seems to be to me, that X-rays, and these X-rays usually are at the 10 to the negative 12th in wavelength. Okay, so if they're 10 to the negative 12th, that means that the X-rays can fit between the electrons of atoms. And when they do, they diffract, and in patterns like this, from the surface. But what happens is they bounced all around, and you don't no longer know where they came from. So, but you do have potentially all of the surface so much of the surface. The surface surface will show easy electron diffraction patterns, but deep diffraction is chaotic. So the math here has to be quite impossible. You know, there's going to be a significant amount of space in these atoms. You're going to come in with a straight line. Oops. You're going to come in with a straight line, and you're going to diffract between the atoms and their electron orbits. And these are all moving around. Well, sometimes they might not diffract, they might get absorbed. And that's part of the absorption. And it stops there. Or it gets re-emitted and comes out as a different frequency. And, you know, this is really truly only thing you can really obtain. The only thing you can really obtain from X-ray diffraction seems to be the surface layer diffraction. Of electrons. The only thing you can really obtain from X-ray diffraction seems to be the surface layer diffraction of electrons. There is a huge loss of identity and the identities location So over here, you get the perimeter volume that can have variable inner space. So you get the perimeter volume that can have variable inner space. So what you have to do so now you have to break up the inner space and fit it to the perimeter. Or you can use a real mass spectrometer by the fragments of polymers and macro molecules. Okay, so you really need one of those mass spectrometers that basically take an ion, shoot it up from an ionization source, ion source, and then your ion goes into a chamber of vacuum that travels through a magnetic field. That when the ion passes through, it is charged and undergoes a magnetic ion gravitational fall. And then it lands on a detector. Of mass. But see, these ions these ions can only be so big, so they have to be fragments. They have to be fragments. And then you just piece the fragments together. You do that with computer animation, or whatever. You might draw it on paper, but I would probably use computer animation to fragment long macromolecules or polymers or whatever, complexes. We call them complexes. So measuring a complex, as you can see, is not necessarily doable with X-ray crystallography and this whole Fourier transform, where they gather specific information from these crazy vectors, and which are known as photon vectors, where there's supposedly some kind of identity to the amplitude or the frequency or whatever, and then the charge too. And then they also like to put in degrees. They like to put in degree of angles. Like, that may matter too, but they don't know. The question is the matter, the atoms, inside. So they don't know. They don't know what this really is. They can't predict the traveling and the energy of photons. So all they can really get is the perimeter, which leaves a lot of questions about the specific arrangement of what's inside. I mean, the variance is potentially infinite for different reasons, but like even mediocre complexes, the variance is going to be so great that they won't know what it is unless they come down here to this mass spectrometer and break it all down into units, into fragments, and then piece it together with a computer simulation. But they can identify the perimeter, but that information, it has some purpose, but it doesn't give you all of the inner workings. So if you want the inner workings, you got to use this kind of mass spectrometer here. If you want the perimeter just to give an image of a certain complex on its outer basis, then you would use X-ray crystallography. So basically, X-ray crystallography is not necessarily used to determine the whole molecular structural components of a complex or whatever, any kind of polymer complex or a macromolecule. Basically, you have to use this, break it down here. This is really where you would start. And you have to know that complex is reoccurring in nature. Otherwise, it may not be a thing. So maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but most likely reoccurring complexes are what we want to know about. We want to know about everything chemistry, but like reoccurring complexes, you should be able to establish them through cloning and collection practices of breaking down chemistry and breaking down different methods for breaking down cells and organelles and things like that into complexes, and then you basically break them down even further, ionize them, and send each chunk specifically in volume through one of these mass spectrometers down here. This is what it is. And this is not so much. This is negative. So, my name's Leonard Wayne Yance Jr. And this is 2021. And that pretty well describes the predictability of X-ray crystallography. It's not necessarily the fact. You don't necessarily need it. You need a regular mass spectrometer. X-ray crystallography. There is another method I want to talk about where maybe you could take and grind the surface with an ion laser of X-rays, and where you can grind the surface and continue grinding inward all the way down and obtaining just the perimeter continuously with a with a detector across here where the x-rays come in. And basically, you could sit there and grind that down and detect the whole substance. So no one knows how long it would take, but that would pretty much be it. X-ray crystal draw vid. Okay, that'll pretty much do it. And yeah, I saved it. So yeah, that's pretty much it on that. And then I could turn this into a better video, but this is working for now. So let's just try this out, and voila, we got it. So all right.